All right, thanks for joining us for this debate. My point is, should performance enhancement drugs be allowed in professional sports? And I say yes, they should. Next slide. The use of performance enhancement drugs, or PEDs, is one of the most controversial issues in professional sports today. It improves an athlete's strength, endurance, and overall physical performance. They often come with some health risks and ethical concerns. Many sports organizations have strict bans on these drugs, considering that they're unfair and unsafe. However, a young number of people argue, a growing number of people argue that a regulated approach to PED use could help address issues such as secrecy, inconsistent enforcement, and athlete autonomy. Proponents suggest that if PEDs were allowed under medical supervision, they could be used safely, help level the playing field, and enhance the overall entertainment value of the sport. Next slide. My first point is it levels the playing field. PEDs are already widespread. Athletes all over the world in all sports are currently using them. Some are legal, some are illegal, but for the most part, the ones that are being used haven't been able to be detected yet by common day medical practices. Legal use of these PEDs, they could prevent certain athletes from gaining hidden advantages by using PEDs in secret. So, as to laying the playing field, every athlete should be performing at their absolute peak. And I feel that by allowing PEDs, every athlete would be able to perform at their peak. Next slide. This is a personal autonomy issue, also almost bordering constitutional rights. We're talking about what someone can put in their body and what they do to their bodies. There's certain situations and there are other factors that can help strengthen and make an athlete better, such as a weight room. A weight room is available to all athletes. Some choose to use them and some don't. However, we do know for a fact that weight rooms do make athletes stronger. They use to practice the ability to be able to use weights makes them stronger. So why is PED any different? We're putting it into our body. We're assuming the risk of what can happen. And most of these PEDs have proven to be nothing more than dietary and nutritional supplements, which is actually safer for the body. I think that we should get to the point where we're not allowing athletes to decide and allowing them to decide for themselves what goes into their body. Next slide. There's been many advances in science and medicine. PEDs could be safer with medical supervision and scientific monitoring. Constantly, scientists and medical facilities are improving these PEDs, which allow athletes to improve their skills, improve their body without suffering any major setbacks to the body system. Medical advancements could allow for a better recovery. When players are getting hurt, these PEDs could actually help them recover not only faster, but even more efficiently. Their career would be longer and the entertainment quality would improve because it's leveling the playing field, allowing for a more balanced competitive approach. Next slide. Skip that. Next slide. There's an economical and entertainment value. Enhanced performance can drive fan engagement and increase revenue. How's this? The faster, the quicker, and over time, this has been proven. Athletes have gotten faster, athletes have gotten stronger. Over time, PEDs can help athletes get faster, stronger, even quicker, which guess what? It makes the game more fun. It makes it more competitive. It brings fans to the stadium. It generates revenue. This is a win-win for both sides. People want to see fans at their highest pinnacle in performance. This would allow them to do that. Next slide. There's blurred lines in performance enhancement drugs. Let's face it. All medical facilities, the medical world does not yet understand what these PEDs do for the body, what these PEDs do as far as long term, how it can benefit the athlete, how it may not benefit the athlete. The bottom line is there's a distinction between PEDs and other supplements that maybe might be hazardous for you. Medical medicine is there to make those distinctions. I'm not saying that we're not crossing the border with anabolic steroids, we're not crossing the border with narcotic drugs. We're talking about performance enhancement drugs. They could be dietary, they could be nutritional, they could affect certain parts of the system that are okay, that don't do the body any damage. They could be seen as an extension of their performance to aid athletes. That there are enhancement aids already in use and already legal. It doesn't make sense to not allow some of these PEDs to enter the sports world and allow these athletes to improve their body and improve their careers and overall improve the product on the field. Next slide. Reducing the stigma and secrecy. Well, this is, allowing PEDs with regulation could reduce harmful underground practices, and transparency and oversight might ensure safer outcomes than current bans. This would eliminate people selling athletes PEDs that are maybe contaminated. It would come from a medical facility. They know what they're doing. They know how to prepare the product, and they instruct the athlete on how to use it, consume it, and ingest it. This would be a win-win for the athlete and the program. Next slide. Next slide.
Oh. There we go.
Conclusion. My points: level the playing field. It's a personal choice. There's been many advances in science and medicine, economic entertainment values. Supplements, PEDs are not level, and let's reduce the stigma. Let's allow these PEDs to help our athletes perform. Thank you.
All right. Nice work, Franco. You raised a lot of good points, pushing for the usage of PEDs. But I try to imagine a world where the value of discipline, natural talent, and human perseverance in sports becomes overshadowed by potential chemical shortcuts. And this is a potential reality we could be facing if we accept the usage of PEDs in athletics. Proponents of PEDs argue, right, that they level the playing field, reflect personal choice, advance science, but it fails to acknowledge a lot of the ethical, health, and societal consequences that come with the legalization of PEDs. So the first one, leveling the playing field. Um, a lot of people or a lot of athletes may not have equal access to the PEDs. Um, right, whether it's from athletes from wealthier areas or systemic barriers that are invisible to the athletes, however they still feel them. Moreover, allowing PEDs devalues the core of athletic competition, where natural talent and hard work combine to see who really wants it more in the end. Sports have always been a celebration about what humans can achieve through dedication and perseverance, right? When people are able to raise the Stanley Cup or raise the Lombardi Trophy, it signifies all the sacrifices and hard work they've made to get to that point. And if victories come down to a needle or a pill, right, it kind of cheapens the achievement. The next rebuttal point is personal autonomy. Um, So athletes, they operate in high pressure environments where the stakes are immense, right? Whether it's contracts, sponsorships, and their livelihoods depend on their performance. And introducing PEDs would force clean athletes into a moral dilemma, right? They can either take the drugs to stay competitive or take the risk and not do the PEDs and risk being left behind. And this coercion undermines the principle of informed consent, making the notion of personal choice an illusion. And also, sport organizations have the responsibility to protect their athletes. And that's kind of why we have the Guardian Cap picture to the left. The NFL recently introduced the Guardian Cap, an extra um, equipment for player safety. And while they have not required athletes to all their athletes to wear them yet, that could be down the line as the league makes to make play safer for everyone involved. Another one is role models. And while these athletes, their job is, for their sport, right, for their athletic skill, they are role models whether they want to be or not. And many young
Dean,
kids,
I'm sorry, Dean, you have 1 minute, buddy.
okay, yeah, many young kids look up to them, and by acknowledging the use of PEDs to achieve their goals, right, that sends the wrong message to the kids. My next point is medical versus non-medical usage. PEDs for strictly um, performance enhancing goals goes against the Hippocratic Oath because part of the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm, and because we are not sure of all of the risk associated with the usage of PEDs, right, we could be inadvertently harming athletes in the long run. Um, Another point is economic and entertainment value, right? If all of the athletes are if all the athletes are taking PEDs, right, they could have a lot of health concerns down the road, right, and that could shorten the career span of these athletes, right. It also forces them to lose credibility as their talent is artificially inflated by PEDs. And then with the loss of stars and loss of athletes, right, that could lead to financial loss for the league as viewership declines. And many people do appreciate the natural talent on display. My next rebuttal for blurred lines in performance. Supplements aid the natural process while PEDs carry more risk. Um, the purpose of medical advancements is to treat illnesses, not to artificially boost performances, and therefore PED should not be used in that manner. And then lastly, reducing stigma and secrecy. Just because it's more socially acceptable for PEDs, right, it doesn't take away some of the risk that the users may face. And that brings me to my first point for the against the usage of PEDs. And that first point is access and fairness. All right, so sports have always served as a stage for celebrating human excellence. All right, and access and fairness does not. All right, sorry, let me backtrack. Fairness is a cornerstone of competition, but PEDs don't level the playing field. They tilt it further toward those with greater financial resources. And access to PEDs is not equal, as wealthier athletes can afford more advanced drugs, sophisticated medical oversight, and methods to avoid detection, leaving less privileged athletes at a disadvantage. Right, and this kind of mirrors some of the existing disparities in access to sport opportunities. Right, and one example of that is Title IX to promote gender equity in athletics. However, to this day, women's sports typically remain less funded compared to their male counterparts. My second argument is informed consent and pressure. So athletes may not fully understand the associated risk, uh, or they may feel pressured to use PEDs. And one example is Russia using state-sanctioned doping for their international or for their Olympic athletes. And then also during the Cold War, East Germany gave their unknowing athletes performance enhancing drugs, and that has left them with health complications. Argument three, uncontrolled experimentation and long-term effects of PEDs. Bless you. Right, so PED use is a dangerous form of uncontrolled experimentation. Many substances, such as SARMs or selective androgen receptor modules, have not adequately been tested for long-term effects yet. In the future, right, if with further testing, right, we may be able to find out more and may be able to make a better informed decision. But as of now, there's not enough research on the long-term effects of all of the PEDs. Argument four, um, ethical considerations versus profit. So a study on baseball during the steroid age found that whenever they announced, or after the steroid age, whenever they announced a PED related suspension, viewership for that team decreased by 9.3%, right? And if 9.3% less people are watching, right, that means you can't charge as much for ads. You're not going to be able to sell as much concessions because the viewership is not as high. And then argument five, PEDs versus supplements. Unlike legal supplements, which support natural bodily functions like muscle recovery, PEDs introduce synthetic substances that can drastically alter the body. And these changes come with severe risk, including cardiovascular damage, hormonal disruption, and psychological issues. Safe supplements like protein powders or vitamins operate within the body's natural processes, while PEDs, on the other hand, override these processes, often with devastating consequences. To equate the two is to ignore the significant dangers posed by PEDs. So for example, anabolic androgenic steroids damages the user's DNA, while supplements such as creatine do not damage the user's DNA. And then lastly, normalizing unhealthy behavior. Normalizing unhealthy behaviors such as PED usage does not negate their negative effects. Additionally, a study found that, oh, where did it go? I just had it. A study found, oh yeah, so PEDs can be like a gateway drug, right? So like adolescents and teens who decide to use PEDs are more likely to engage in risky behaviors, and that could be um, driving without wearing a seatbelt, drinking and driving, trying recreational drugs, um, and other dangerous activities like that that could lead them to harmful and potentially dangerous situations. So in conclusion, my key points for not uh, legalizing the usage of PEDs in sports is access and fairness, informed consent and pressure, unknown long-term effects, ethical consideration versus profit, PEDs versus supplements, and then normalizing unhealthy behaviors.
All right, point taken. Good job. Good job, Dean. So my rebuttals to your points are as follows. Uh, to your access and fairness in PED use. Regulated access can ensure fairness. Legalizing and regulating PED use under medical supervision can provide athletes with equal access. This levels the playing field and it reduces the secretive and uneven usage. Current systems are already equal. Some programs have more money. Professional sports have more money. They have access to superior training facilities and nutrition, medical care. PED regulation would not exacerbate inequality, but instead it would standardize those options for all athletes in general. We focus on monitoring compliance. A regulated framework ensures safety and transparency, preventing abuse and creating fair competition. Comparable enhancements currently exist. Legal performance enhancing tools are similarly not accessible to all athletes, and they are similar to the effects that the PEDs provide these athletes. The regulation follows the same logic of allowing scientifically monitored enhancements. Next slide. Informed consent and pressure to use. The pressure already exists in sports. We all know that there's an extreme amount of pressure to win. I don't feel that adding these enhancement supplements would further that. Regulated PED use ensures informed decisions. It creates a safe and transparent environment where everybody knows, the organizations knows what's being used, what's out there, what's medically prescribed, what is approved, and it levels the playing field. It lessens the pressure by leveling the playing field. The athletes know that they're performing to their peak. They know that their opponent is performing to their peak, and they don't have to worry about any disadvantages on the field. Next slide. Uncontrolled experimentation and long-term effects. Regulation encourages research and oversight. So the regulation of these PEDs is going to allow medical facilities to research them and make sure that they do enough experimentation to warrant them safe and to prescribe them safely. Athletes already use these PEDs in secret. It's already being done. They use PEDs that are undetected. They could be doing damage because it's in secrecy, because it's being done underground. There's been plenty of advances in medical science to prove and show that some of these PEDs could be used safely if monitored correctly in the correct dosage. And I think it's important to get the medical industry involved when prescribing these kind of supplements to our athletes. Next slide. Ethical consideration versus profits. Well, we're redefining ethics in sports. The essence of ethics in sports is fair competition. I mean, that's what it's all about. We're promoting these PEDs to level the playing field, make sure that each athlete has the same advantages, whether it be training facilities or whether it be dietary or nutritional supplements. Profits and ethics can coexist. They have to. Business is a sport. We all know that. Enhanced athletic performance boosts fan engagement and revenue, supporting both athletes and sports organizations. The framework can guide BET use, ensuring that it doesn't exploit athletes while preserving sportsmanship. And current systems already prioritize profits. Sports is a commercialized industry. We know that it's all about the profits. We're not going to change that. The only thing we could do is make the use of PED ethical. And by doing that, we allow them to come in and allow them to be regulated and we allow them to be prescribed by medical professionals. Next slide. PEDs versus supplements. Regulation enhances safety. Supplements are not always safe, so we have to make sure that the medical profession can get involved, look into them, make sure they're safe, and prescribe them to the athletes. And comparison is contextual. Risks associated with PEDs are comparable to other accepted risks in sports, such as extreme weight, overtraining, activities that athletes already take on significant risks. Next slide. Normalizing unhealthy behavior. Regulation promotes safe usage. Athletes already, well, this is kind of going into the same as the last slide. Advanced in PED research can lead to safer substances that support recovery and longevity, not just short-term results. Modern medicine continuously evolves to prioritize long-term athlete health. This is going to benefit the athletes. It's going to benefit the industry. It's going to benefit collegiate sports, pro sports. Everybody across the board could benefit from a heavily monitored, medically approved performance enhanced supplement system that could help athletes perform at their peak. Thanks, Dean. Thank you for your arguments.
All right, thank you, Franco.
All right, man. Good job.